Mr. Harry Drucker, who is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, hairstylists in America and maybe in the world. And he started what is called the invisible haircut, which is, for many stars who were in front of the cameras, it was very important that it not be noticeable from one day shooting to the next that indeed their hair was cut. And Mr. Drucker began this type of hair styling. And he has styled the hair of such people as Clark Gable, Gary Cooper, and many other stars. And I'd like to introduce him now to you to speak about long hair and some of the dangers and things to look out for about long hair. It's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Harry Drucker.
Thank you very much. Of course, when I came in here, it reminded me of my past a little bit. I had two kids in 1937 when I brought them out here, and I said, this is the place where I want you to go. And they did finish their school over here, so I feel at home here. Of course, there is an art in speaking, and there is an art in listening. And I hope and trust that your listening is better than my speaking. Having been in this business here for over 40 years, I think I'm qualified to talk to you young man about this long hair business. And when you say long hair, there is such a thing as long hair and long hair. In 1937, I remember when I came out here, I was brought out here, there was sort of a going on called the butch haircuts. And I refused to give it for the simple reason because I really thought that man looked horrible with so-called scalp to the skin and so on down the line, and I refused to give it. Now, I'm neither for or against long hair. However, I am both worried, saddened about the present situation. Because, number one, for appearance's sake. And I'm sure you gentlemen are self-conscious about yourself. Many times you look in the mirror, and if you're honest about yourself, you know what looks good and what looks bad. It loses the individuality, cleanliness, health hazard, and it closes door to opportunities. And a definite personality changes with your long hair. And when I say long hair, I may emphasize long hair. Not for the better. It doesn't change for the better. It disregards the entire appearance, and I think it's a phony use for the symbol against the establishment. And possibility of feminization of man. This is my honest belief. And last but not least, it absolutely leads to complete baldness. And you never see a man bald around here. I mean around the sides or back, always around here. And gentlemen, notice I see a few right in here. But you have your length of the hair, and you comb your hair in front in order to cover that defect. Because it's just the same like you have overweight. It's bad against your heart. That's what happens to long hair when it becomes excess. It pulls down and it completely destroys the so-called hair follicles. Now, the most unfortunate thing is that in hair, it never gives you a warning like a toothache. When you have, for instance, a cavity and you drink a little cold water, it gives you a little pain, so you're on to the dentist. But hair does not give you any warning at all. When the time comes that your hair recedes, it's already too late. Now, when hair grows a certain length, hair follicles absolutely stop functioning normally. And when hair follicle stops functioning normally, hair ends split. When hair splits, hair begins to fall out. And you can't deny that, no matter which one. You could go to any dermatologist and you'll find out that. I'm trying to tell you the dangers of your hair being long, I mean long. And whatever I said to you, you could accept or reject. If long hair is your bag, here is what I suggest to you to do. If this is what you call your particular thing, and you want to feel for a period of time that gives you a little freedom of action, and so forth down the line, and you're defying all kinds of situations, this is all right as far as you're concerned. When you're young, you have that privilege. But at the same time, you must learn how to take care of it. When you have long hair to the point, where it's really unreasonable, and if you want to continue keep it and don't want to become bald, first, you must cut off the dead ends. There is a certain amount of dead ends here that must be cut off. And I don't mean cutting hair, I mean taping hair. Then you must wash your hair at least twice a week. Then you must use a conditioner. The first month treatment at least once or twice a week, and rinse it pretty well. Make sure the conditioner is thoroughly washed out. Hair and scalp. Brush hair for 5 minutes at least, twice a day. And during the hair brushing period, you must bend your hair down, head down, so the blood should rush into your hair, to your scalp. And keep on brushing. Being in this business, as I said, for so many years, I know one thing traditional when a kid becomes about 12 months old, or a year or 2-year-old, and if you happen to be unfortunate to be in a poor neighborhood, and you go into a so-called street barber shop, invariably the memory is very bad, because they take the clipper and cut the poor kid's hair off completely. And the mother goes into hysteric, and the father goes in crazy, and the kid starts crying, and so forth down the line. Now, when you live a little bit in the middle of the hill, that becomes a little different. The hair is cut a little more with the scissors. Then when you live up the hill, when the kid comes in, and this is the first remark that a mother and father would make. And the kid looks, the average child, 12 months old, or a year or 2 or 3, they all look alike. They all look like a bunch of girls. So as they come into the barber shop, the mother invariably will say, please don't take too much hair off. Just take a little bit off. So they take the curls off, whatever it may be, they put it in a little envelope in order to keep it for posterity. And soon as the kid's hair is shaped a little bit, and coming back with the machine, which is a very terrible thing, I remember that myself, and just when you shape it back, the first exclamation remark is, doesn't he look like a little nice young man? Now the same thing that has been gone past. I remember when I came out here and you heard that phraseology, nice clean cut young man. This long hair, no matter how good looking you are, you got good looking faces and so on and so forth. What are you trying to hide? I mean, I really mean it. I like to get an answer. Many times, like you take a Tiny Tim. Well, he's got to hide something. I really mean it. I remember a fellow called me up, since this thing came to existence and all beauticians and cosmetologists sprung up because due to the fact of the long hair and they charge $25 and $50 a haircut. And I know you kids cannot afford it to do a thing like that. It happened in my shop many times. We have 12 men working for us. And many times a kid comes in, and I actually would give him a haircut for nothing, so as to make him feel right. But do you go into a shop and you spend $25 and $50 and they give you a hairdo because they take advantage of your long hair, and instead of fighting it, they're joining you people. And it's becoming really what you call a racket. Now, Coming back to the other thing as far as the emphasis on baldness, even the middle-aged group men that are imitating the youth, they feel that they're going to break the generation gap by trying to imitate you. And for the past 5 years, I have noticed one thing. There are more hair weaving so-called parlors. There are more transplant hair situations going on. There are more toupees sold in the United States than any other place in the world, because due to the fact they're neglecting their hair. The person that is bald and he has that long sideburns and the long hair here, just look at it. Doesn't it look ridiculous? Does it look sensible? Does it look reasonable? And this is what's happening today. And they're not breaking the generation gap by imitating you people. And you people, by having the long hair, and I'm sure maybe your girlfriends have what you call a terrific influence over you. But your parents, I know families got a lot of trouble with you kids. I mean, especially the little ones. Especially the little ones. I don't mean the 22 and 23 and 24. How about those little kids, 16 years old, 14 and 15 years old, and they're going around with the long hair, they don't take care of it at all. And they come in and they got all kinds of diseases and scaly scalps and so forth down the line. And they're telling their mother and father, mind your own business and so forth down the line. It's getting to be really what you call a very sad situation. And you kids are leading into a very, very sad future. What is this going to, where is it going to end? This is the most important thing. I don't want to bore you any longer with this here situation, but I'm telling you, number one is, even for selfish reasons, I have no motive here whatsoever, because in the barber business there is no such things like selling Brooklyn Bridge. I can't become rich cutting your hair. However, if you continue this way, I will get rich selling toupees. So in conclusion, I want to say this. I'm very grateful for the privilege that you gave me a chance to speak to you. And if I did give you a little food for thought that will help you along in that pathway and be a little bit more conscious about yourself, this is my ample reward. Thank you very much. Yes.
You talked about long and the very long hair, but you never made any reference to what you might say an optimal length for the hair in terms of...
Well, once it reaches beyond, behind the shoulders, that's already abnormal.
No, in terms of when we're considering baldness, should it be 2 inches, 4 inches, 10 inches, 1 inch? What is the best length of hair?
The best thing is, as a matter of fact, the thing is this: when you have long hair, it takes a little more frequent taking care of it than we have short hair. Dead ends come in about every week or so down the line. Your dead ends is the most important thing. Now, if you don't mind, if somebody wants to come up here, I'll just want to show you one example what I mean by dead hairs. Does anybody want to come up here?
I volunteer. Am I qualified?
No, this fellow would be better. I hope you don't mind me saying that this is what you call abnormal. Now, I don't mean that the gentleman is abnormal. Don't get me wrong. He could be a very intelligent fellow and possible whatever it may be, but somebody sold him the idea. Now, do you notice right here, his hair already is receding. This is the truth. Here, it's receding completely. All this hair is absolutely dead. This is dead hair. This is dead hair. Well, I tell you something. I'm very grateful that you have that sense of humor for the simple reason because I thought I'm going to be crucified around here. But I can see you have a little respect. I'm glad that I'm dealing with human beings. Now this hair, in order to cut it correctly, it has to be washed first. But I can't wash it here, and I wouldn't cut too much either, because he's like to kill me. Gentlemen, be a little bit more serious because this is really a sad situation. I really mean it. When you take this hair here, you could see already his hair is receding. Watch this.
Why don't you take it all off?
Shall I take it all off?
Yeah.
I tell you that you're wonderful. Now, I'm not trying to make an issue out of you, but you take, for instance, here in the long hair, before looking at his face. If I walk in the back, I wouldn't know whether this is a girl or I should approach him or I shouldn't approach him. I really wouldn't know. Now, please note one thing. You see how stringy this hair is? And as I touch this hair, watch it. And it wouldn't be short, I wouldn't cut it short. He told me to take it all off, but I wouldn't. I wouldn't dare. Watch this here. This is absolutely dead hair. And as I cut it off, watch it. All this here is dead hair. Now notice this. As soon as I took off the strings of hair, if you're really honest, you see this becomes alive already. Look at this. This is dead. This is alive. Even the waves come in. I'll turn them around after I get through. You watch something. This is all dead ends. Now, would you mind turning on, you mind? Just a little turn around. I want to show something. Did you notice before, when the gentleman had that long hair, how dead it was? Now look at this. Look at the texture of this hair here. Now it's coming alive. Really, I mean it. I'm not trying to. Do you notice, young lady? Do you notice that? Did you see the dead ends before, how dead it looked? Women take care of their hair. Women have a tendency of really taking care of their hair. First of all, they go to a beauty parlor, and those that cannot afford a beauty parlor, they use all kinds of shampoos and various things. They're a little bit more conscious of themselves. Whereas a young man, when he leaves his hair grow, he becomes very, very neglectful. This is the truth. Many times we refuse to cut young men's hair for the simple reason because they have to. The father comes in, he's a client of ours, and he says, "Please give my kid a haircut." And as he comes in, if you comb his hair, this hair happened to be clean. I will compliment you. The hair is clean. And you come in, you comb his hair, and all of a sudden you feel, pardon my expression, knits and scaly scalps that it's impossible. And I say, Mr. Greenberg, whatever his name is, you better go home and wash his hair, and then I'll cut it for him. I can't cut it. It's impossible. And my man refused to cut it there because it's so neglectful. And by that, I don't mean to say 22 or 23 or 24 years boys. They become a little bit more conscious about it. But the 16-year-old boy is really a hazard. Now, another thing, when you drive a car and you have long hair like this, it's a natural tendency for you to take the hand off the wheel and do it this way. Like a woman, you know, because you got to see where you're going. And then you take your hand and your hair is full of oil, full of grease, or whatever it may be, and you touch your face. Consequently, you get a breakout, you get a rash on your face. This is also due to long hair, negligence, long hair. And again, if I may emphasize, long hair, long hair. Nice boy. You know, I shouldn't talk about that. I got a kid 24 years old. He would kill me. Of course, you know, when you, for instance, in the shop, and you use all this other lotions and so forth, and the hair dryer, you set this hair into a position where it really looks nice. There's no question about it. And yet, it's not short. You don't call this short, but before it was absolutely, if I may repeat, ridiculous.
serious. Really would like it shorter.
You like it shorter?
Yeah, I really would.
Go ahead.
I told you, I was telling you before that I was. gonna
I
have it all
think
cut
you
off,
have
but
a
I don't
little
think you heard me.
foresight of consequences.
I don't think you heard me when I said it when I walked in.
You really want it shorter?
Yeah, I told you that.
Get against it.
I can't give it to him.
My God.
No, I'm gonna get the whole thing cut off.
For me?
I was gonna get the whole thing cut off in a couple of weeks. I told you that, so I thought it was funny.
Oh, you did make up your mind. Well, why did you leave it grow so long? What was the beyond the point that leaving it that grow that long?
I don't know. Laziness or
Is the
anything.
girlfriend? Your girlfriend told you to grow it? You know, usually girls like
Save
to.
money.
They like to challenge themselves. They like to challenge, you know, they want to see how much influence they got over your young man and see whether they got more influence than for your father and mother. And they say, I like long hair, leave it grow. Then you come home, you have a fight with your father and mother. I'm doing this on the gentleman's request. And as I said before, in order to do a real good job, you really must wash the hair first. I mean, you told me to cut it shorter.
I'm serious. I want to quote normal hair.
Chalkboard or something? That's what I was planning.
But with that touch, you understand.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes. You know what he said? Don't go too far.
I didn't say that.
It doesn't even work. Yes, it does.
What is that stuff?
This is a hair conditioner. Now, if I have, you haven't got an electric outlet here?
Right here in the corner.
Have you, gentlemen? Is there an outlet here? Oh, yes. Would you mind come over here for a second? Just for a second.
Just keep it there. We'll give you an extension.
Oh, please. Thank you. Oh, my God. Very good, very good. Well, I'm certainly glad to be here, honestly. I like it, you know, I'm like a ham actor. I didn't do so much work in 10 years. I reached the point where my man do the work. You notice here, right in here, it's starting to recede already. Right in here. If he doesn't take care of his hair properly, within 5 years he must be bald. Now I want you kids to be honest, including the young ladies. Does he look better now than he did before? Who said that? There you are. And it isn't too short. Thank you very much. Now you don't call that short hair. Before it was real. No, look at this hair. I really mean it. I don't know. You see this here? This is absolutely dead. Excess. I'm not kidding. This is God's honest truth. And I wish I would have a microscope and you could find out. There is more germs in this little hair than you could possibly imagine. Thank you very much for being so nice, you kids. It made me feel like home. Yes?
Do you have any suggestions as to brands of shampoos or conditioners?
Well, it's according to what kind of scalp you got. If you got oily scalp, you must use a neutral shampoo. But if you have a dry scalp, you must use a shampoo that has some basic oil, you know, like a marrow oil or something like that. It's according on your condition of your head. Some people secrete and some people excrete oil. And that's the reason why the different shampoos.
Well, I was thinking more on the lines of maybe brand names. Could you refer to
No, I really don't like to mention any names. I'm not trying to publicize any shampoo. The average shampoo and the average cosmetics, you know, is outside of the little odor, is about the same category. There is no very little difference except the suggestion of advertising. If I'll be very honest with you, they're very different.
So,
Yes.
well, I've noticed that, for example, stuff like Head and Shoulders, it looks like, you know, it has a lot of detergent. Looks
Well,
like
Head and
detergent.
Shoulder, if I may say that, it is a fine shampoo.
Is it?
It really is a fine shampoo,
How is it-
especially if you have dandruff.
Now, how is it for thin hair?
For thin hair, I wouldn't use Head and Shoulders. For thin hair, I would use a neutral shampoo. Well, you take, for instance, you know, it's a very common shampoo. As I said to you before, every shampoo, regardless of name, it varies very little different. Like a thin hair, I would use a sort of a marrow oil shampoo that it hasn't got the foam, you know, and it takes the natural oils out, you know? That's what I would use. Yes?
If you cut off the dead ends and you give the body to the hair like you did to that guy, when it keeps growing, will it keep getting longer and longer and the dead ends keep getting farther and farther back?
Absolutely. That's why when you have long hair, you must frequently take better care than when you have short hair. In other words, it calls for taking better care. Number one is, even for instance, if you have short hair, if you shampoo your hair in so-called in the shower, you have a tendency to go through with your fingers and you touch the real bottom of it. But when you don't have long hair, you have a little problem. So you got to wash it a little often. And the same thing with the hair growing. The dead ends come in and like every week or every 10 days, the points.
So you could conceivably have a really nice head of hair all the way down to your waist.
Well, now, the waist is already excess weight. That creates baldness. That really does. It's just like being overweight. It's bad for your heart, that's bad for your scalp. It really, what you call it, handicaps the so-called hair follicle, and it really doesn't function properly when you have excess hair, especially down there. It pulls right there, the shaft. And again, if I may say, the reason you don't notice that is because it doesn't give you any pains. And the only time you feel sorry for yourself is when it starts receding.
How long could it conceivably get and still retain a really nice body?
A nice body, not below the shoulders. As soon as it goes below the shoulders, you're in danger.
Speaking practically, you suggest that we go to somebody who does take good care of hair or who cuts it correctly. Where do you go to get something like this that you don't have to pay something like $20? Or how do you find out that someplace is good?
Well, let me say this. I'm glad you asked that question, young man. You see, the cosmetologists that came into our business now, they have a great gimmick. They took a shortcut. In other words, they learned the business within 6 months. They learned the business. They don't need no barber license. They only have what you call a cosmetologist license. And in order to make a record out of it, if I may speak that way, and I'm not afraid to be quoted, they charge like $15 and $25 only for a hairdo, what they call. Meanwhile, they're taking care of the hair, they shampoo it, they blow it a little bit and so forth down the line, and you feel good when you go out. But it has nothing to do with the taping and shaping. There are good barbers that it took them 5 and 6 years to become a real professional stylist. Those are the men that are honest with you people. And I mean it. This goes even your neighborhood shop, if he's honest with you. All around, you could find men that are, they're dedicated. They're not only merely just because they want $25 or $15. I couldn't charge $25 if you kill me. And I cut the finest men hair, all the executives and all the stars. We have customers, not that I want to bring names out. Jack Benny's a customer of ours for 35 years. I mean, so to speak, many others, Jansen and many others, so far down the line. We have what you call a set price. Now there's no, like a person calls me up and says, what is the first haircut? I told you before. The first haircut. The first haircut is when you're 12 months old, or a year or 2 years old. There's no such thing as like a first haircut after 12 months old. A haircut is a haircut. And a barber, if he has good judgment, he doesn't cut your hair that you should be disappointed. In other words, you're going with the long hair and all of a sudden you come up scalped. I don't think that is fair for you people. You look good with full hair. It's nice. Long hair does look nice, but when I say long hair, not long hair. I don't like to see boys look like girls. Let me put it this way. I got kids too. There's the guys on the street. And I'll tell you another thing. I don't want to quote names, but there's a fellow comes. I told that to Mr. Elias. He went to New York and he got a fine job. And the only way he could have got the job, he was interviewed by a friend. His father's friend sent him over there, and he came in with long hair. And this fellow was a little disappointed. He said, "Look, I know your father for many, many years." He says, "The only way I could hire you is if you cut your hair." And he turns around, "What has that got to do with the job?" He says, "My dear friend, this is it. I don't mean to cut it short, but if you want to cut your hair, I'll give you the job." He finally did it. Now he came in just 3 weeks ago. This is an extreme already. He came absolutely with a clean haircut. I mean a clean haircut. And he turns around to me and he says, "Mr. Drucker," he says, "when I came back from New York and I seen my father become a hippie, I'm so disappointed you have no idea." Now there's a switch for you. Yes.
You stated earlier that, unlike a toothache, you can't tell when you're about to become bald.
That's correct.
Yet, there must be some signs. In other words, like you wash your hair and suddenly you've got
Right.
There's hair all over the floor
Right.
or something of that.
Right.
Is there a normal amount of hair that you should lose every time you wash your hair? In other words, as a natural progress, without it being a sign that you're losing too much or you're becoming bald. In other words, You know what I'm trying to say?
Yes, I do, and I got the answer for you. The fact remains, if your dead ends are cut off and you're going to wash your hair, evidently, your hair will not fall. The only time you'll find out that your hair is falling is when you are associating with the dead hair. And then when it starts falling, it's too late.
Well, would you say that my hair is so?
No, your hair is normal.
Okay, now
I would say this is normal.
I happen to wash it twice a week.
Very good.
And I'm not going to congratulate, but yet when I wash it, there is a certain amount of fallout. So to speak.
Well, there is a fall. Well, I'll tell
Great
you.
deal, but
Well,
I don't know what a great deal means.
Well, let me say this to you. Your hair is not short, but your hair is not cut properly. Your hair is thinned out. It hasn't been shaved. It's used the thinning scissors. And I can tell you why you have that stringy look. Razor line. That splits the end. That's another. We got into a different kind of a field right now. Instead of cutting with the scissors, you see how I cut this man's hair? I didn't use the thinning scissors. This is a real straight scissors. And this strengthens the hair. Whereas you use a razor or you use a thinning scissors, you have a tendency to split. You split your hair. And your hair is becoming flat instead of alive. Yes.
I've done quite a bit of reading about your hair. And I found that also your diet has a lot to do with and that you can take care of it best you want to reading bad life foods like processed sugar and white flour and things of this nature you may continue to lose your hair.
Well, I wouldn't doubt that. I'm sure there must be something, you know.
Diet nourishes your blood and through nourishment your hair and causes a lot of problems.
I didn't hear you correct, but at the same time, I heard just a few things that you have said. I can't go against diet. Diet plays a very important part in everything. I mean, as far as your whole system is concerned. In other words, you know, for the hair, for instance, you know, we have what you call a vitamin F that feeds the so-called hair shafts, and it helps you along a great deal. But as I said before, and I don't like to repeat myself, I'm speaking in general, you know, that you people are going in too far extreme. Now, like you, young man, that you just talked. Now, from here, if you forgive me, I wouldn't know whether you're a girl or a boy. No, I'm not kidding. This is God's honest truth. I don't mean to against you, but this is the appearances it has. You got to be a little conscious of yourself. Cleaning, shampooing is a very important thing. And brushing is next. Brushing is a very important thing. But how many men have got the patience to brush their hair for 5 minutes or so? Women have. I can see women brushing their hair constantly, bending down, you know, and doing the right thing. You do exercise with your body. You play tennis, you play golf, you play this. But you never do any exercise with your hair. So consequently, you know, this is the result. Short hair had a tendency of taking care of itself. But long hair, you must really pay attention to. That's correct. Brushing is very interesting. Yes.
Are there any kind of brushes that are better than other things?
It's got to be natural bristle. Nylon is no good. It breaks the ends. Despite the fact, you know, that nylon is a cheaper brush, but I really think that the genuine bristle is much better.
What about the metal ones?
Well, if it has bristle.
No, they have some metals.
Oh, there is some metal one with bristles. Oh, they mean the one? No, that's no good at all. That breaks your hair completely. It has a tendency to grab your hair. See, but a bristle brush, when you brush it, evidently it gets a hold of your hair, and you feel that pull. But the other brush does not pull. It just slides over like. Did you ever notice that?
Yes.
Just slides over, you know, like a glass.
You mentioned that shampooing is very important. I've also heard some arguments that the natural oil of the hair also is very good. Now, how often should you shampoo before you destroy
No.
the natural oil?
Let me say this here, too much natural oil is no good, because if you happen to have a tendency that your scalp excretes a certain amount of oil, then you must wash it, as a matter of fact, more often, for the simple reason because oil has a tendency to catch dirt and so forth down the line. But it comes back anyway because that's your natural tendency, so you gotta take care often. Yes.
Putting aside the question of appearance entirely, wouldn't the best thing for your hair be just to completely leave it alone?
Leave it alone?
Other than, say washing it, but not brushing it, not putting anything on it?
Would that be better?
Yes. It's just like the best thing would be just to naturally let it do what it wants to do.
Oh, that's like committing suicide. It's never a sin what you do. It's the consequences that is important. You could do anything you want. There's no sin. Nobody's going to stop you. But it's the consequences you must know. You are here to attain knowledge. Now, if you become knowledgeable and you know exactly what you got to do in order to keep the appearance, in order to be in line with yourself, not to be destructive, then you can make a statement like this. It says, wouldn't it be a night? You've got to help nature along in every field. Nature gives you warnings, but you're supposed to help it along. Now, if you keep on leaving it along and so forth down the line, you commit suicide. All right, gentlemen, anything else? Thanks again, you were a very fine audience, really. I enjoyed every minute of it. Thank you very much.